What's up everyone, Kawaii here, and welcome to my playthrough of Grisaia Fan Trigger Volume 8. This is part 7 of my Grisaia Fan Trigger Volume 8 playthrough series. If you haven't seen the other 6 parts, or if you like some of my playthroughs, Volumes 5 through 7, you click the playlist link in the description down below. But yeah, we're going to pick up where we left off back in part 6, so without further ado, let's get to it. Keep forgetting to click. Keep forgetting there's an option to click. There's an option that says don't show next time every time it asks you to load the game. But yeah, finally checked that box. So anyways. So yeah, last time we left off, All Out War, the final battle has commenced. So we see some of the girls kicking ass, and now Haruto has been called to a meeting of some sort. So here we go. I was just seeing how things were out in the field. Oh yeah, and of course we see the big land whale, Ayame here. What do you mean? Oh, you mean about Nishi-san? I know, don't worry. I know you were trying to hide the truth from me, but I've actually already known all about this for a long time. I know there's no need to suddenly start panicking. Well, surely it can't be these two. No way. Hey, to be fair, Yuki is a spy, okay? What else could you expect from her? Hey, to be fair, Haruto could be a very intimidating person. Have you seen what happened in Volume 3? How we basically traumatized Megami? Oh, what do you mean he was a bit more direct? Direct how? What kind of direct are we talking about? Haruto, I mean, I know you're basically a harem protagonist, or a harem protagonist in some way, but what did you do to this girl? What does it matter anyway? I won't run away and try to find Inishi-san immediately just because I know where he is. Besides, you're being way too protective of me, trying to shield me from the truth like this. It was really hard to keep pretending that I had no idea what was going on in front of you grown-ups. How about a little praise for my acting chops? Yeah, Haruto does love to act like a wise ass. You're here too, Ichiro-san? But I wouldn't get too free of what? Oh. What were you thinking? We may have destroyed the sensors on the enemy's field cannon, but there's still no telling when they might fire it, and we're within its range. Why did you come here? Okay. You're right that it can give a big boost to troop morale to see the commander out of in the trenches, but Miss Nogami, why didn't you try to stop her? That's true, but still. Oh, really?
主の選んだ道に正しいも間違いもない。 主の選んだ道こそが正しい道なのだと自分に言い聞かせることにしている。
That doesn't sound like bending the path towards the right direction. That sounds more like blind compliance, but okay. Doesn't that just mean that you've given up on trying to correct her? Or that.
やっぱり私は帰った方が。
ここまで来ておいて今さら帰ると言われてもな。ではお一人でお帰りくださいというわけにもいかん。あなたを後方へ送り届けるための人員がもったいない。少しは考えて発言し。
Jeez, Ayame just does not like to sugarcoat his words at all. You should choose your words a bit more carefully. I don't appreciate you making our homeroom teacher cry. She's invaluable to the class. Exactly. For fuck's sake, Ayame, not Ayame. Arisaka has been doing her best, like, almost every time, like, in every volume. Like, come on. We all know how self-deprecating she is, and come on, Ayame. That's not how you talk to women. Jesus Christ. That's not true. At the very least, you're reassuring the students just by being here. Yeah, it's about time for them to come back to eat. So why don't you go eat with them? When they've seen you and filled their bellies again, they'll be full of energy. It'll give them a new lease of life. Just look them in the eyes, give them a gentle smile, and ask them to show you the results of their training so far. That should be enough. I'm sure everyone could use some warm words of encouragement in times like these. Well, you characters especially, since you guys are fighting wars in your own war. Yep, and make sure the food is warm too.
ああ、有坂先生。細かいことだが、この現場では子供たちを生徒と呼ばないように気をつけてくれたまえ。本職との混成という現場の倫理上、立場が生徒であっても学生として扱われる。そこを間違えるとうるさい連中がいるのでね。よくわかりませんが、わかりました。
Yuki, you should go with Miss Arasaka and eat too. So, what's our plan?
私から説明しよう。現時点で制圧が完了している地点は作戦予定の8割にも達していません。タイムスケジュール的には2時間の遅延というところです。ただし予想よりも遅れているというだけで全体の損失としては 0.9% ほど下回っていますので言い訳は立つでしょう。
Only 0.9% less?
遅れているから損失も少ないのだと言われてしまえば言い訳として成立はせんだろうね。
I mean, I guess those losses.
損失を抑えるのは当たり前。スケジュール通りに進んでなお損失が下回ってから報告しろといったところだろう。
I mean, I guess the less losses, the better. But like, I mean, that percentage can add up. Plus, that 0.9% could matter in the long run. Just saying.
かといってここで焦れば全てを仕損じるぞ、姉上よ。
分かっているさ。怪我人を増やされると困るのは私だ。
ならば何とする？
もっと学生を前に出せばいい。下手に生ぬるい現場に慣れた大人よりもよっぽど専門家だ。
More students.
いやね、学生を盾にする気？
その考え方の結果が2時間の遅れなのではないのかね。普通に生きてきて職業として兵隊を選んだ大人とガキの頃から人殺しを経験してきた学生では心構えからして違う。多少無茶をさせたところで心が壊れるような育て方はしておらんよって話だろうが、汎用機風情な人殺し専用の機械に勝てるわけがない。
嫌な言い方するわね。
羽川よ、貴様が受け持った学生に愛情を注いで大切に育てているのは知っているがね、 人の役に立って初めて許されるのだよ、彼らは。
I want to believe you, Sengoku. I want to believe that they cannot match the power of sword. The girls at sword. I mean, I know that's what we've seen, so that is what we've seen so far. I mean, those girls have been whooping ass, killing left and right. But then again, it's final volume. I don't think any of them have plot armor left, so we'll just have to wait and see. We're just gonna have to wait and see.
学生を前に出すにしても使用機材に合わせてフォーメーションを組む必要があるな。制圧力という面で見ればうちの山岳両兵隊を先頭に出すべきだな。
If we need to break through the enemy's front line, I suggest using our shock troops, our hunting dog, Maki, with Rena supporting her from the shadows.
お前の兵隊は派手すぎる。静かに敵陣に浸透し、背後から刺して回るならうちの無音暗殺部隊が最適だろう。
I think our ninjas would be able to do that just fine.
忍者にはダムの発電設備の破壊という任務が与えられているだろう。敵の施設に潜入して戻ってきた連中を無駄に使うわけにはいかんぞ。
部下の自慢合戦か？浸透、突破、制圧の順に編成すればよかろ
う。制圧した後には確保もしない。せっかく制圧しても奪い返されたら意味ないし、うちの子たちは確保に回らせてもらうわよ。
Securing the base may sound like an easy job, but it means they won't be able to leave their post for a long time. That's pretty rough. Will they be okay?
そこは本職たちとうまくやっていくしかないわ
ね。現状ポイント B と C は確保済みですが、ポイント A に関しては引き続き敵の野戦砲を引きつける目的であえて膠着状態のままです。SARS、サーフともにポイント A に大量投入されていますので、
Surf。
学生の先行隊に対する支援に数は期待できない状態です。
I need to get those are two complete different terms. I need to get it right. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, I think for the past like how many parts now? I've been calling the protagonist side SIRS. Well, I'm pretty sure the correct term is surf. Because I think SIRS refers to the corporate higher up side of things, whereas surf are the actual ground troops. At least I'm pretty sure that's correct.
それで構わんよ。比較化された汎用兵には最初から期待してはいない。桑原隊の陸戦兵を回してくれれば十分にことは足りる。
汎用兵って言い方はどうなのよ。
向こうだって我々を反地方人と言うじゃないか。
What?
大体な、連中はプロ気取りだが何にでも使えるってやつが一番使い物にならん。そういうやつに限って何をやらせても中途半端。うちが何のために重機の資格分けをしているのかも分かってないのだろうな。
And that means they're not actually jack of all trades.
現場に出れば何でも使うのは当たり前だ。
But they probably are a master of none.
少なくともこいつはこれの使い方を知ってるんだなっていう目安でしかないよ。そんなこともわからんから汎用と呼ばれるんだ、アホめ。
I'm sure the pros have their hands full with the work at hand, just like we students do.
そういえば、学生たちはどうしている？みんなでカニ食ってんのかってぐらい静かだな。
I'm afraid crab isn't on the menu today, but Miss Arisaka is distributing their meals right now.
失礼します。
Oh, Chris?
こちらせアイスクリーム隊。ただいま
Ice cream?
アイスクリーム
はい。制圧の済んだ地域にアイスクリームを配布する部隊です。
Fucking Surface and Sword are feasting on ice cream while the soldiers of TFA don't even have any food at all, like basic food at all. They can't, like they barely have any good food. They don't even have good drinking water. In fact, they don't even have water at all.
またのんきな。そんなことだから反地方人と揶揄されるのだ。
ご苦労。私にはバニラを。
Really? I thought you for more of a caramel or chocolate type.
バ 姉上。まさかあなたの指示ではあるまいな。
いかんのかね。
また学生が遊び半分で戦争ごっこをするなと言われるな。これは
言いたいやつには言わせておけ。あいにくと私は文句を言うことでしかストレスを発散できんような不器用な連中に霞耳など持ち合わせてはおらんよ。
その通りだぞ。
Oh, Taiga's here too, of course.
その重要さをまるで分かっておる。父上よ、アイスクリームは心の薬だぞ。
Yeah, well, I mean, it is important to keep troop morale up, and I guess ice cream's a good way to do it.
小さい姉上もいたか。これはかなわんな。
It's important to treat your soldiers every once in a while, not just with ice cream.
ハルトさんの好きなチョコミントもありますよ。
Great, thanks.
他には定番のバニラとチョコ、
Oh, Uzaki-chan would love you, Haruto.
クリームとラムレーズンがあるぞ。
The mint chocolate is good though.
助かるわ。うちのバニラとチョコ、名前の割にストロベリーとクッキー&クリームが好きなのよね。
That's interesting. The girls must be done with their meals by now, so let's bring them some ice cream for dessert and have them eat while we explain the plan.
浸透、突破、制圧、確保の順でいいのよね。
あとは予定通りポイント F を制圧後、いよいよ敵本拠地への強襲だ。くれぐれも焦るなよ、ハルト。
I know. I've already given my regards to Kuroi-san, so I doubt that Inishi-san is going to run away or hide at this point.
まあ、あの男の性格からすれば、待っていたよ諸君とか。
Yeah, he's been waiting.
セリフが言いたいがために堂々と
He's been waiting for that final battle. He's never really grown up, has he? oh.
あなたにだけは言われたくないんじゃないかしらね。
I was about to read Ukawa's line.
とにもかくにもここからが大詰めだ。油断するなよ。
That goes without saying. We've gotten this far. If we lose now, we'll only have our own arrogance to blame. No matter how carefully commanders craft strategy in the war room, it can all come to naught if their troops are overconfident. Students need to be particularly careful not to get ahead of themselves if they're not used to large-scale operations. It'll be easier to explain things to them once we've turned on their brains with a sugary dessert. Yeah, planning is one thing, but actually putting that plan into action, that's a completely different thing. I mean, preparation, training, all that's great and all, but that can all be thrown out the window at a moment's notice once you actually go out into the field. Because out in the real world, nothing is predictable. Rena, Maki, you'll take up your usual positions in the vanguard. You'll be working together with St. Aile's silent assassination squad led by Sylvie. Sylvie and the others will go ahead to infiltrate their headquarters. They will attempt to thin out the enemy while remaining unnoticed for as long as possible. Once that becomes impossible, they'll start making noise and take out the rest of them. That will be your signal to blast in. Draw attention to yourselves and proceed with Sylvie's squad in pincer formation. Don't worry if the odd enemy troop tries to escape. Vel and the mountain troops will surround them and keep them pinned down. Since you'll be outnumbered, it's likely that some of them will get away, but there's no need to chase after them. Leave that to St. Aile's mountain troops. Toka and Gumi will be working with them as well.
で、拠点を抑えたらうちらが確保ってわけ？
That's right. You'll be working with professionals from both SIRS and SURF to secure the territory we've won, and we move forward into the base.
学生が先行するとまた本職がうるさいわよ。
They can complain after they've made up for the 2-hour delay we're dealing with. HQ is aware of the situation.
あ、じゃあもう遠慮しないでいいの？あら、嫌ですわ。遠慮ってどの口でおっしゃってますの？
私らが止める間もなくガンガンに突っ込んでくくせに遠慮が効いて呆れるぜ。
Right.
仕方ねえだろうね。私はそういう風にしかやれねえんだから。
I don't think Maki even has a hold back mode. It's okay, that's already factored into our strategy. You'll have to rely on Sylvia and Vale to back you up.
よろしいですわ。私たちはもともと日陰の仕事ですし。
私も問題ねえっすよ。要はこいつらは猟犬つうか肉にすりゃいいってことっすよね。
That's a good way to put it. If Rena and Maki are out front, you should see the momentum of the whole squad increase. A strong offensive has the advantage of putting more pressure on the enemy and boosting our allies' morale. When the enemy is overwhelmed, they'll want to escape the situation as soon as possible. They'll get impatient and take larger risks in an attempt to turn the tables, and that'll result only in chaos and a loss of competence. That will be your chance. Stay calm and be thorough. You don't need to win as quickly as possible. You could take your time. I understand that if you see an opportunity to put this to bed, you'll want to take it as soon as possible. But that's what leads to necessary risks. When you feel yourself slipping, remember who you are in normal life. If you can't do something in training, then you can't do it in real combat. But everything you can do in training, you can manage in a combat situation too. Acting like your natural self, that's what will ultimately allow you to win. There's no need to overdo it. Just do things the same way you usually do. Otherwise, you risk losing the abilities you normally have at your disposal. It's really upsetting to lose when you could have won it with a little more patience, you know? Let me emphasize that it's only by pure chance that we students have managed to make it this far. But luck is a fortunate byproduct of all the effort you've put into your training until now. There's no need to get yourselves worked up. Just do what you always do. Crush the enemy's will and strip them of their mental reserves. Break down everything that's been keeping them going until now. The moment the enemy realizes that they might lose, they'll suddenly remember how tired they are. They'll struggle to move a muscle. And you don't need to listen to anything the professional soldiers here say. They'll be on edge, so you should teach those wise-ass grown-ups just how strong you can be if you keep on laughing and joking around when faced with adversity. That's all from me for now. As soon as you finish your ice cream, I'll need everyone to carry out final checks on your equipment and wait for further orders. So basically, Haruto said that, levity during fights actually has a purpose. So there's actually a reason why they cracked wise jokes all that. They crack jokes so often, like even during the heat of battle. I guess that would make sense.
お疲れ様です。大変良いコブでした。
Oh, you heard? Then why didn't you come and stand next to me?
いえ、私みたいなのがいるとどうしても空気が弛緩してしまいますので。
Wouldn't that be a good thing? Living with that tension the whole time gets exhausting, though.
私は変に賢くなってしまう大人側の人間
I don't think so.
どうしたって空気を悪くしてしまいます。こんな状況にあってもどこか楽しげにアイスを食べている子供たちを見ていると。
I don't think
と
so.
もすればやけを起こして無理に明るく振る舞っているようにも見えてしまって。
I mean, Surf and Sword are doing pretty well, so I mean, they got a little room for cheerfulness.
この子たちは今がどういう時か本当に分かっているのだろうか。戦争では自分の命だけではなくいろいろなものを失うってことを何も分かっていないのではないかって思うとただただ心苦しくて。そんな風に偉そうに言っても私だって戦争のことなんて何も分かっていません。ただ早く終わってほしいって。
That's the feeling of hers that's been persistent since Volume 1, pretty much.
無力が辛いです。
That's why I want her to load Toka's magazines. Because I actually want Miss Arasaka to help these girls in any way possible.
戦争の勝敗は金、質、量の3つで決まるという。 まずは圧倒的な財力。現代戦争は札束での質、量に劣り、一時的な敗北を喫そうとも財力さえあれば戦後に勝利を買い取ることすらできる。
Yep, all armies need proper funding.
次に質。たとえどれだけ兵がいようとも素人が何人束になろうとプロには勝てないし、素手では武器を持つ敵には勝てない。それを転じて量。いかに優秀な兵が高性能な武器を所持していても圧倒的な数の暴力には太刀打ちできないし、国民感情という数字で勝敗が逆転することもある。そもそも私たちは勝っているのでしょう。
It looks like you guys are winning,
負けているのでしょう。
at least.
それすらも曖昧になってしまうのが戦場というものなのでしょうか。
Oh! Oh shit! Whoa! Okay, well it looks like we've jumped right into Patrick's side, and holy shit! So Patrick has his own CG now, and he's in full military uniform. He's got his own uniform. He is blasting away with an AK, which is surprising because I thought they'd be something more along the lines of M4s. But yeah, he's got an AK, he's blasting away, and a new song, a new soundtrack is playing, a new song, a new BGM. It's called For You, My Child. Oh, wow. So what's going on here? I'm guessing shit really went down in Patrick and Oliver and Bruno's camp. Like, it definitely looks like Patrick is just fighting for his life. I must be crying at this point. Though I can't really tell myself. I'm overwhelmed by a mix of emotions unlike any I've experienced before. Screaming like a madman, I press down on the trigger of my automatic rifle, the kind I've always hated, and spray bullets at random, not aiming at any target in particular. How did things turn out like this? Why am I doing this? I try to think, but I can't remember anything. Who was the first to die? Uh-oh.
いいか。戦闘になったら物陰に隠れる。どこから撃ってきたとか、敵は何人だとか、余計なことは考えなくていい。
Yeah, I definitely don't know how I definitely don't know how I got to this point, but either way, what I do know is that is one hell of a way to transition to Patrick's group, Patrick's point of view. Because we went from Arisaka calmly downing herself to Patrick spraying bullets with tears in his eyes and screaming. Also with a brutal new soundtrack as well. So yeah, I mean, also it's pretty clear that things on TFA's side are, well, not going well to say the least, so I guess if you put it that way, it's not all that surprising that Patrick basically looks like he's fighting for his life, and I think it's fair to assume that everything just went to high hell in this camp. But either way, let's see how it all happens.
物陰に隠れて安全を確保したら、そこで初めて戦闘開始。物陰から銃と片目をそっと出して、見える範囲にいる敵を撃て。
And still though, I just hope that the girls are still alive. That all of the girls are still alive.
一人やったらすぐに隠れ。死んだふりをしろ。そのまま自分の方に向いている敵の銃口が減るのを待て。そして頃合いを見て、再び見える敵を撃て。俺の繰り返しだ。できるの？
はい、やってみます。
And so the battle quietly begun. From the depths of the forest, lit dimly by the faint blue glow of the moon, I start hearing screams. Ooh. A muffled scream. as if somebody got stabbed with their mouth while their mouth was covered. Who was it? I can't tell. All I know is that people are dying out there, one by one. I can only do as I've been told and sit here listening to the gurgling noises my dying comrades make, unable to scream out loud with their throats slit. First, I tried to secure a safe hiding spot with the girls. They're completely useless in battle, besides acting as a shield. I ran through the dimly lit forest, my right hand clutching my rifle, my left holding Natalie's small hand. I didn't have time to look behind me to check if all of the girls were following. I could almost feel the heat from my comrades' rifle fire behind me as they blasted away in their efforts to fend off the approaching enemy forces. The burning sensation across my back made me want to get away and hide somewhere safe as fast as possible. I ran as quickly as my legs could carry me. I looked up at the source of this sudden shout and saw the phony medic, Private Matthew Mackenzie, waving his hand. I didn't exactly see him, to be precise. I just saw a dark silhouette waving at me, and from his voice I figured it must be him. There was no guarantee I'd be safe if I joined up with him, but I wanted to believe there was, so I ran desperately towards him. It was so dark in the forest that I could barely see my own feet. Small rocks and tree roots can easily trip you up, so I lifted my knees as I ran, trying to step on or over any potential obstacles. That moment, something passed right next to me. I didn't see what it was, nor did I sense anyone's presence. I was only made aware of it thanks to a soft gust of wind and a faint sweet scent, like a bouquet of flowers. Oh, was it Sylvie? So yeah, it had to be one of the girls from Surf, right? Or Sword? What the hell was that? I wasn't sure. I thought it was possible I was just imagining it. The flowery scent, the gust of wind, they were immediately replaced by a smoky smell of gunpowder and the sound of gunshots. Suddenly, Matthew was standing in front of me. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. Is everyone okay? I repeated his words in my head, and it took me a moment to remember that I was leading the group of girls. In my right hand, the grip of my rifle, in my left, Natalie's small hand. I hadn't realized how tightly I was gripping them. My palms were sweaty with nerves and incredibly slippery. A sense of dread dawned over me, and I looked down. I saw Natalie's young face smeared black with mud and soot. Aww. I was relieved to see that Natalie's hand still had the rest of her attached to it. So am I, to be honest. I must have been gripping Natalie's hand very hard. I was no doubt shaking her back and forth as I was running. Okay, these girls are okay. I finally noticed that behind Natalie, there are 4 more girls. We were missing 2! Oh shit, yep, the twins! Where are the twins? An itchy chill ran down my spine.
Sorry.
When I called her name, Sally, who was resting her hands on her knees and breathing heavily, glanced up at me. Uh-oh. Oh my god! Come on! Don't tell me! Who? Who was missing? Sally and Natalie were there. Who else? The postulant with the glasses, Melissa? The airhead, Ashley? The boisterous one with the messy hair, Charlene? No, the twins. We'd lost the twins, Alma and Irma. Those two already seemed to stick together. It's likely that one of them fell behind, the other saw and stayed back to help them. Can't say anything else. Everybody was preoccupied with their own well-being. Just doing as we were told was hard enough. Oh my god, so these girls are really gonna die one by one? Don't tell me. Having caught her breath again, Sally clenched her fist and stood up. She looked back into the dark woods.
よせ
Sally froze in place. Matthew's order was quiet but powerful.
見てみよあそこに戻って双子を探す気か
Matthew pointed at the muzzle flashes flickering in the distance. I couldn't tell if it was our allies or enemies, but either way, it was a wondrous sight, and I shivered a little. It's not that I was trembling in fear. I was in awe of the fact that human lives could be scattered to the wind so easily. My knees started to shake, and I wasn't sure I could walk on any longer. Well, I guess one could say that Patrick's knees are weak, arms are knees weak, arms are heavy. Patrick's palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There we go. There's vomit on his sweater already.
無理アキラ
No spaghetti.
お前が飛び出していったところで死体が増える
His cold words made me gasp in shock. I was shocked to realize I'd become just as cold myself. I accepted what he said without a word of protest. I found myself making excuses trying to convince myself that abandoning the girls was the right thing to do. Reality is a harsh mistress. There was nothing I could do. It's pathetic how shallow I am. I tried acting the hero, but when confronted with reality, I changed my tune straight away.
怖い
At the sudden question from Matthew, I looked up at him.
戦場の何が怖いって何が正しくてどれが真実なのかわからなくなることだこれまで自分が大切にしていた価値観や常識なんてものがみんな吹っ飛んじまう自分の基準としていたものが全て壊れちまえば暗闇で突っ立ってるのと同じ平衡感覚を失いバランスを崩してそのうち一人では立っていられなくなる誰
Damn it. Oh well. He seemed to be implying it was the right way for him. He put his hand on Natalie's head and turned her around to face me.
いろそしてもう一度よく考えろ今お前が一番優先するべきことは何だ双子の死体を確認しに行くことか
To be fair, we don't have a body. There's no mention of two bodies, so there's a chance. You know, we don't know for sure that they're dead. But on the other hand, we don't know for sure that they're alive. It's common rule of fiction. No body, no death. I couldn't find the right words to answer his question. Natalie's anxious expression as we stood there on the battlefield with bullets zipping through the air around us was burned into my mind.
人間は神にはなれない全てを救うことなんてできるだったらせめて目の前の命を守ることに集中しろわかる
At my weak reply, the phony medic, Matthew, gave me a hearty pat on the back.
よし行けはい
I readjust my grip on my rifle and on Natalie's hand. Then I turned to look back at the other girls following us.
行くよ全員ついてきて
The girls nodded feebly while I encouraged them to keep going. They'd barely had any time to rest, but they forced themselves up. Anguish was written across Sally's face. She must have been devastated to have abandoned the twins, but she didn't mention it. I'm not sure what the title of novice denotes, but if the role involves leadership of any sort, she must have been a model student. She gathered up the remaining girls without needing to be told. As long as someone kept moving forward, the others would follow. Once that person stopped, everyone would stop. The girls were like little ducklings following after their mother.
まだこんなところにいたのかさっさと逃げろ
The distant gunfire had rolled closer while we were resting. The front line was being pushed back, and it was now so close that bullets were practically grazing our cheeks. Bruno hurriedly exchanged the empty mag of his automatic rifle and shouted at us with a strained voice.
本体はとっくに交代してるぞこんなところで何をしてるんだ
Squinting in the dark, I could see members of Corporal Brown's squad passing us in retreat.
アルマとイルマは双子を見ませんでしたか
Sally, unable to resist the urge to ask, tugged at Bruno's shirt and shouted into his ear. When he bent down to listen to her, her voice was nearly drowned out by the gunfire around us. Bruno seemed annoyed that Sally grabbed his shirt and shook her little hand off, but he answered her in a firm, reassuring tone. Oh, thank God! Henry. Try to remember who that was. Oh, yeah, that was, wasn't that the Mexican-American dude that, told Sally to piss in a bucket? Captain Henry, yeah. Or, yeah, the guy with the knife. That too. Captain Henry Mendez, the man I remember as the Slasher. He'd taken a knife and tried to slash open his friend's mouth for a single bottle of water. And he got the twins? Was it true? I looked around, but I didn't see him or the twins. We can entrust those two girls we can entrust him with those two girls' safety, right? I mean, almost slashing your comrade's mouth for a bottle of water. That's not a complete, tell of one's character, right? Bruno shouldered his rifle again, but then a hand reached out for him. Matthew pulled out the spare magazine that Bruno had tucked into his belt and replaced it with the one from his own automatic rifle. Bruno was about to complain. He was no doubt saving the spare magazine for when he really needed it, but he swallowed his words when he caught Matthew's serious expression. Aw, is this the last we're gonna see of Matthew? His words reminded me of the object tucked away inside the knapsack of my back. A severed pinky finger belonging to William Mackenzie, Matthew Mackenzie's younger brother. Something told me that Matthew didn't plan on following us. I responded with a slight nod and a soft, okay. Matthew said no more. His eyes were trained on the enemy muzzle flashes in the distance. He took cover behind a rock and started returning fire. Oh, yeah, it's Sylvie. Sylvie's here. Matthew's whole body stiffened when the voice suddenly rang out from nearby. Oh, dear. Well, it was nice knowing you, Matt. I'm sure you did your best to tend to all those wind soldiers. Well, rest in peace, Matt. I'm sure Patrick will take good care of your brother's pinky. Who knows, maybe once you die, he'll take your pinky too. Her voice had a sweet undertone to it, although it also sounded like it could be echoing straight from the depths of hell. Matthew was frozen in place. He couldn't tell where the voice was coming from. His muscles tensed. He grit his teeth and pulled the trigger. Oh, well, I guess this is Matthew's character design. This is unfortunately the only character design we've got the only look we got at Matthew. It's and it's literally, I'm guessing literally right before he dies. Yup. This is how we're gonna remember Matthew. This is all the reference we get of Matthew. Oh, shit. A grenade? You gonna stuff a grenade in his mouth? Oh boy, I hope God likes dudes with their heads blown off. Oh, wow. Well, rest in peace, Matthew. You went out with a bang. I reflexively grabbed Natalie and pushed her to the ground just before an explosion ripped through the forest. And god damn, they actually put a ringing sound. I mean, I guess it is realistic considering that, you know, it's an explosion. Explosion happened like literally a few feet like in front of them, but still. It seems my ears were unable to handle a noise that loud at such a close range. For a moment, I felt a strange pressure, and I couldn't hear a thing. Yeah, the ring. It is pretty nice that they put a ringing sound, though. It's realistic, in a sense. How long had I been on the ground? My ears were still ringing, but I carefully lifted my face. My vision was filled with the sight of a girl's thighs showing from beneath her white skirt. Oh dear. Either one of the girls have died or Charlene is just traumatized. Or both. Her voice was as soft as the buzzing of a mosquito. Due to the ringing in my ears, I couldn't tell what she was saying. Man, I would make a thigh joke about thighs save lives, but I don't think this is the right moment. Considering the situation these guys are in. Yeah, deadlock is playing. In other words, something really bad happened. Slowly, carefully, I lifted my head from the ground and turned to look at Charlene's face. Her eyes and mouth were open wide in shock. She hadn't taken cover quickly enough. Oh, shit. Her habit was covered in shapeless chunks of Matthew that had gone flying with the impact of the explosion. Her face was covered with the sticky substance of red, purple, and black. Oh, dear. Well, hopefully there's still a pinky left of him, right? She let out a sob, like a baby's hiccup, as she tried to wipe off some of the sticky goo. Then she realized what it was. Gray matter, covered with a light pink membrane. She must have seen enough bodies by then to be able to tell it was a part of Matthew's brain. To my ringing ears, her piercing shriek sounded like it was coming from much further away than it really was. I looked up distantly at the sky, wishing that her scream might have come from some far-off battlefield, anywhere but where we were. Ah, oh, poor girl. Charlene jumped to her feet and started shrieking like a banshee. It wasn't even a scream. It was more like the air was simply being let out from her lungs with a whistle as they shrunk in fear. It seemed to me an emotionless, almost inhuman sound. The girl was now in a panic, flailing her hands about in an attempt to wipe off the sticky substance. Some of it must have gone in her mouth as she was also gagging and violently throwing up. Sally rushed to her side. Oh my god. Charlene pushed wildly as Sally, Charlene pushed wildly at Sally, the emotions that had been balled up inside her exploding out. She was thrashing around like a child with a temper who's not getting their way. Sally, in her desperate attempt to calm her down, ends up taking a few punches. Sally grabbed both Charlene's hands and pulled her into a hug in an attempt to calm her down, but Charlie's emotional outburst was beyond control. Oof. Charlene's elbow hit Sally clean in the jaw. She staggered and dropped to her knees, disoriented by the blow. Charlene wrestled herself free and started running with total abandon. Oh god, the girl's gonna get herself killed. I couldn't let her go. I had to chase after her. I gently helped Natalie from the ground. My eyes focused on the girl running off into the forest like a mad woman.
Natalie, 怪我は?
She didn't seem to have any visible injuries. I managed to shield her with my own body in time. I guided her towards Sally and prepared to give her a chase after Charlene when a sound pierced the darkness. The roar of an automatic rifle followed by a high-pitched yelp like that of a cat whose tail just missed. Ah, crap. Sally must have recognized the sound too. She seemed to understand what had happened. She covered her mouth with both hands in shock, her eyes like saucers.
知るかよ。規制を上げていきなり飛び出してくりゃ敵だと思うだろうが。
Oh my god.
お前はいつもそうだ。よく確認もしないでバカスが打ちやがって。この臆病者がなんだと。
Private Kyle. Wasn't that? Oh, yeah, that was the private that lectured Sally on holding the funeral for Luis. Ah, you asshole. You absolute fucking fool. At the feet of the two men, now at each other's throats, lay Charlene. Her body was twitching, and the corners of her lips were curled in an eerie half smile. Jeez. An innocent girl who had nothing to do with the war was dying before their eyes. Why weren't they trying to help her? I tried to get closer quietly, but my limbs refused to move the way I wanted them to. It was like all my muscles had suddenly stiffened up. My body felt cold and heavy, like it had been drained of blood. Cold sweat was seeping into my clothes. My face, though, felt like it was on fire. Somehow I slowly managed to crawl over to Charlene. She gasped noisily from breath and then coughed up a large bloody clot. Her eyes remained open, but I saw the light disappear from them. How could this have happened? For her to have died in a friendly fire incident? I looked up from her body, and my eyes met those of the man who shot her. There wasn't a trace of guilt in his expression. He looked down at the body with disdain, seemingly convinced that it was the girl's own fault. My mind felt numb. A fury rage welled up inside me. I hated this man. I hated him from the bottom of my heart. I hated him so much I could kill him. My index fingers sought the trigger of the gun I was still holding in my right hand. I never experienced such an intense desire to kill before. Kill him. He deserves it. My inner voice was shouting at me to do it, but my heart seemed to be regaining its calm. Someone stepped between me and the two men. It was Colonel Donnie Brown, the squadron leader. His voice was flat as he addressed me. His face was expressionless. I slowly breathed out the heavy air that had been weighing down my lungs like rocks. Oliver, appearing from behind Colonel Brown, drew a map out of his shoulder bag. Seems like it. Yeah, y'all losing pretty bad.
元よりそのつもりだ。我々の部隊は背後に展開する敵集団の中央を突破し、我が TFA の本拠地まで後退する。正気か?
Oliver turned off the flashlight he had been using to read the map and looked at the corporal with glazed eyes. Even in the dark, I could see a glint of white where the corporal's mouth should be. Is he smiling? Despite the desperate situation we were in, the corporal was flashing a toothy grin. Wait, what? Wait. What happened? All according to Keikaku?
我々は餌だ。敵をおびき寄せ、引きつけるだけ引きつけて、一人でも多くの敵を集めるのが目的だ。
集めてどうする？
あとは野戦砲の集中砲火で一気に蹴りがつく。戦いの数勢が一気にひっくり返るぞ。
野戦砲の爆発は俺たちを避けちゃくれないぞ。俺たちまで吹っ飛ばされる。
だからなんだ。最初からそういう作戦だ。
So this is basically a suicide mission for them.
それが本部からの指示か。
Yeah, that's the full. Yep, they're basically They really are just sacrifices, bait. It's been a suicide mission this whole time.
何？来ると分かっている攻撃なら何とでもなるものだよ。
Oh, yeah. The corporal, who we've known to be very professional and no nonsense, says, yeah, it looks like it looks like it finally got to him. It looks like he finally broke, mentally.
教団の教えを思い出せ。どんなに貧しい暮らしをしていようと、元気で笑っていることができれば、それが何より一番豊か。
I don't know any church teaching like
そ
that.
れこそが神が一番望まれていることだ。戦って死ぬことは誉れだ。死ぬということは神が身元へ来ることを許してくれたという。
Oh, this is such a haunting, this is such a creepy, just haunting CG.
笑って死ぬのだ。笑って死ねば貴様の魂がどこで迷っていようと神が必ず貴様を見つけ天国へ導いてくれる。
I mean, just look how unsettling this looks. Like it's just nothing but a man with no eyes, with no expression on his face other than a smile. And then he has blood all over him. It's, oh my god, it's so unsettling.
だから笑うのだ。
We're done for. There was never a way out of this forest to begin with. I thought the war had already taken everything from me, but now it had stripped me of any hope and salvation too. Maybe there was never any hope. The dim moonlight filtering through the treetops began to feel unpleasantly bright. The sound of gunfire seemed to be coming from all directions, drowning out the groans of my comrades. I was able to sink to my knees in utter despair when I felt a strong slap on my shoulder, and suddenly my ears picked up the voices of my allies again. My consciousness was foggy, but I could clearly make out a familiar face. It was Bruno. I don't know why he said it with an accent this time. He was right. We needed to run. But where to? What exactly would we be running from? I readjusted my hold and Natalie's hand started running, dragging her along. I had no idea where I was going. Anywhere was fine. Anywhere but here. Anywhere but there. My ears picked up a familiar voice. Was he talking to me? I paused to see where the voice had come from. The ground was strewn with bodies. I didn't know if they were friendly or enemy, but it didn't matter. I picked Natalie up and held her to my chest, then started running again. There was barely any room to step between the bodies, but I started to get used to dodging them. I don't think I'll ever get used to the sensation of accidentally stepping on a body, but I didn't have time to worry about that. Just keeping myself from slipping and falling required all of my focus. Human viscera is incredibly slippery. It's like stepping in a puddle of grease, and limbs are as much of an obstacle as tree roots, except the skin peels off when you step on them, almost causing you to slip. Isn't this pretty much deja vu for them? Like, back in part 1 or so, they were trudging through bodies, and well, they're going through the exact same situation right now. It never ends with this group. The gunfire behind me seemed to be getting closer. I couldn't afford to spend too much time staring at my feet. I could only keep on running, lifting my knees and stomping down forcefully to squash anything underfoot. I hear a little yelp behind me. There was no time to look back. Even if I had looked, it would have been too dark to make out what had happened. Oh shit, Ashley kicked the bucket. My feet felt heavy. It was like I was running through knee-deep water. Slime was seeping into my shoes, making it even harder to run. Blood, no doubt, and who knows what else. I avoided looking at my shoes as I ran towards the voice I had heard earlier. I put Natalie down and patted her down and checked for any major injuries. The man seemed annoyed that I was taking my time and hadn't yet answered his question. He snapped at me. I was so focused on running that I didn't keep track of any of the girls besides Natalie, who I was carrying. When the man angrily clicked his tongue, I was finally able to see who it was. The guard who was with the man who accidentally shot Charlene. I shot him an angry glare. It was dark. He probably didn't notice. But he may have sensed my animosity. He awkwardly puts his hand on his helmet and shifted it forward slightly, hiding his eyes. To be fair, it wasn't you. That was all Kyle. That was all Kyle. You tried to protest. You argued against him. I mean, could you have done something to stop it? Maybe. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really Daniel's fault. It was Kyle's. I didn't need to be told what a mess we were in. Then that there was no time for sentimentality. I understand that all too well. I just couldn't bring myself to accept that abominable act of cruelty. And there was nothing I could do about my frustration. Good. I wish I could have seen it. Maybe he had it coming, but that's not how I saw it. Under those circumstances, anybody could die at any moment, in any way. It was just the luck of the draw. A branch snapped under someone's foot, and then there was the sound of something being dragged along the ground. I held my breath for a second. The guard must have heard it too. I heard him shoulder his automatic rifle. 3 dark silhouettes approached us from the depths of the forest. The one in the middle seemed to be injured, and the other 2 were supporting them as they slowly limped towards us. The guard's intimidating shout brought the 3 figures to a stop. Then a familiar female voice answered him. It was Sally. Now I seem to realize it even quicker than I did. I didn't react quickly enough to stop Natalie from running over to the 3 other girls. The moment I stepped forward, about to give Trace a powerful hand landed on my shoulder to stop me. Bro, when it showed us the like the blurry images of the 3 girls, like I thought like the straps, like their bag straps, I thought they were like blood stains, like blood dripping down their nun uniforms. I was about to get really scared, like holy shit, all 3 of them are walking corpses. But luckily that's not the case. At least I hope that's not the case. The scene's not over. The guard shouted out the girls, all the while nailing me in place with his strong grip on my shoulder. The girls slowly limped closer, enough for me to make out that it was indeed Sally and Melissa, and they were carrying an injured Ashley. When the girls were within arm's reach, the guard and I looked them over. As far as I could tell, Sally and Melissa didn't seem hurt, but the girl they were carrying, Ashley, didn't seem to be breathing. Oh shit, I immediately saw that she was dead. The left leg of the girl's still warm body was bent in an unnatural angle, but other than that, I couldn't find any serious injuries. So, I heard that too. I heard her, but I didn't have time to look behind me and check if she was okay.
の前で急に転ばれて、私は急に止まれなくて、私そのままアシュリーを踏んでしまって、アシュリーの膝を踏んでしまったって分かったんです。
Oh.
嫌な音がして、骨から肉が剥がれるような嫌な感触が足の裏から伝わって、でもすぐに立ち止まったんです。アシュリーを助けに戻ったんです。アシュリーは頭を抱えてうーってずっとうなき声を上げてて、私どうしていいかわからなくて、とにかく逃げなきゃってアシュリーの服を掴んで引きずって、ごめんねって、ごめんなさいって何度も謝って。
Poor Melissa. Melissa's face scrunched up behind her glasses, as though she was all about to cry. Sally gently put an arm around her shoulders.
そこへ私が来て、二人でアシュリーを抱え上げて、なんとかここ。
The guard only seemed to be lending half an ear to the girl's explanation as he examined Ashley's body.
4周を警戒しろ。前後左右だ。
Hearing her mutter, I reflexively stood up straight. I made Natalie, who seemed to be in a daze, watch my back, and Sally and Melissa stand watch on either side of us. While there was no sign of the enemy at the moment, the fact remained that we had to get out of there as soon as we possibly could.
転んだ時に頭を打ったんだな。お前が踏み殺したわけじゃない。頭ってのは打ちどころが悪けりゃ簡単に死んじまう。だから
ああ。
お前らもそこらの死体から剥ぎ取ったやつでいいから被っておけ。
Jeez. I mean, it's not easy to die from just a simple trip, but like it is possible. And like luck was definitely not on Ashley's side. She must have hit her head on something really hard and really pointy. Then the guard tossed a flask my way. I looked like Ashley's flask. He must have taken it from her bag when he examined her. May seem insensitive stealing from a comrade's bag, but the dead don't need flasks, so there's nothing wrong in taking them. I used to make a living looting dead bodies, so I don't have any right to criticize, even if not everyone would agree. The flask was small and light. It was obvious that it used to belong to a girl. I didn't even need to shake it to tell that it was empty. The man seemed confused that I was asking. He quizzically tilted his head and pointed at the ground with his right hand, still holding his rifle. Yeah, they mentioned earlier that there was water, but they didn't go to it for fear that they would get shot by the enemy. I think Patrick was there for that explanation, wasn't he? No, he hasn't. Well, at least not when he was running away in complete darkness. He prompted me to look at my feet, and only did I realize how soggy the ground was. Oh. I've been trying to ignore the sensation because I assumed it was just a sea of blood, but he was right. It was water. Oh. Man avoided answering my question, instead checking the chamber of his automatic rifle. He released the bolt handle, and the breech closed with a loud click. A hint, perhaps, that I should drop the subject. I slipped Ashley's flask into my knapsack, picked up Natalie again, and turned to check on the rest of the group. Maybe group is a stretch, given how few of them were left at this point. At that point, I gritted my teeth and focused on following the small trickle of water upstream to look for the source. Oh, wow. Whew. That was rough, but let's continue. I suppose we were lucky that there was any water at all, but it wasn't easy to reach the spring. And of course, the enemy was also aware of it. Someone sneaking towards the spring under the cover of darkness could easily be mistaken for an enemy soldier and shot on sight. Since we knew that everything would be over if the enemy found us, we didn't even bother trying to conceal ourselves as we walked upstream. Eventually, we arrived at a small pond, clearly the source of the water. Why was it so obvious that the only source of water? Why was it so obvious the only source of water in the area? One clue was the masses of bodies piled around it. They were strewn around the pond, as if they had each used the last ounce of their strength to try and reach the water. Many of them had died with flasks and bottles in their hands, face down in the water. My God, I didn't have the energy left to speak out loud, but if I had, I doubt I'd have mustered any response but that. Sally and Melissa, trailing just behind me, had similar reaction, let out a small gasp at the scene before us and stood there dumbfounded. You know, despite how desperate the situation might seem, I would not trust any source of water with corpses around it. I mean, the water may be the only source of water within miles of you guys, but it's probably also contaminated with blood, bacteria, all that. I put Natalie down so I could take the flask out of my knapsack. Sidestepping the bodies lying across the pond, I made my way to the water's edge, crouched down and pushed the flask beneath the surface. Bubbles of air escaped as it filled with water. Water. That moment, I realized just how thirsty I really was. My throat was so dry I felt like I was on fire. I brought the flask to my mouth and took a few hasty gulps. Oh, yeah, I was just going right for it, huh? Well, maybe none of the corpses are actually in the water. But still. The taste of the water wasn't quite what I expected. It had a metallic tang to it, as if it had been running through a rusted pipe. I looked down at the water, trying to discern its color, but it was too dark to see clearly. Oh, it's probably iron from blood. Oh, yeah. I knew it. I knew it. The blood of my comrades must have been mixed in with it, I thought. Yeah, I knew it. But that didn't make it completely impotable. That's what I told myself, at least. As I thrust the flask into the pond again, just then something grazed my ear and let out a gasp. The enemy. The snipers must have their sights trained on this place. The only local source of water. Oh, Toka and Gumi? They were watching that pond? Now explain the pile of bodies. They'd set up an ambush at the spring, shooting anyone who approached it. I grabbed Natalie and we fell to the ground, down among the dead bodies. Hearing something splash right next to me, I gasped and held my breath. Maybe the enemy sniper missed me on purpose. Was it because we were just kids? Or were they trying to use us as bait, waiting to kill anybody who might try and come and save us? I had no idea what their thought process might be, but we couldn't stay. We'd have been killed sooner or later. Looking back, I saw Sally, her face half submerged in the dirty water, immediately responded to my suggestion. Her gaze was so focused on me, like a dog awaiting its master's orders. She slowly made her way over to me, taking cover behind the bodies as best she could. We hadn't known each other for that long, but I quite quickly learned how strong she was. It was important not to forget that not all of the girls were as strong as Sally. The youngest, Natalie, was still sandwiched between the muddy ground and my chest. She was looking up at me, wide-eyed, not moving. Perhaps as the youngest of the group, the natural thing for her was to shrink from the limelight. She never tried to stand out, never acted out of line, and made sure she never got in the way. I reflected that maybe we should take a leaf out of her book and try to get away unnoticed. The question was, which way to go? Intuitively, I wanted to run away from the sound of gunfire, but it was quiet somewhere. That also suggested that none of our comrades were there. Should we try to find allies? I wondered, increasing the number of targets and therefore our chance of survival, or should we look for a place with neither enemy nor friendly soldiers around? I slowly raised my head and looked around, trying to figure out from which direction the enemy sniper was shooting. But then I saw something else. Melissa was sitting uptight, her legs stretched out in the mud in front of her. She looked exhausted and didn't seem to have made any attempt to take cover. She didn't appear to have heard me. She didn't even adjust her glasses, which had slid down her face. She just sat there motionless, staring at the other side of the pool. The look on her face didn't bode well. She was wearing the kind of expression you get when you completely run out willpower. The kind of expression that says you've given up, that you can't process the unbearable weight of fear and anxiety pressing down on you, unlike anything you felt before. She dead? Or she just lost all hope? She must have been running on fumes for a while, but if she wasn't able to scrape together whatever courage she had left and kept going, she was certain to die. Sally, okay, so, well, her eyes moved, so at least she's still alive. Sally called out to her in a stern tone. Despite her young age, she sounded exactly like a mother scolding her child. Melissa twitched. It seemed to have worked. She let out a small sigh, as though she had suddenly remembered how to breathe. The light returned to her eyes, and her gaze landed on a shiny object in front of her. She didn't really seem to understand what it really was. Oh no. Lisa reached out for the object, an automatic rifle that must have belonged to one of the soldiers who died there. With a dazed expression, she picked it up. It was much too big for a little girl like Melissa, but she opened the chamber and checked the ammo like any soldier would. Oh no. It didn't seem like she had heard me. She placed the stock against her shoulder and pulled the trigger. The sound of rapid fire echoed through the forest. The rhythm of it seemed slower than usual, perhaps because the rifle had been submerged in muddy water. Oh my god, what is she doing? I know she probably lost all hope, but she's gonna put her friends at risk too. Oh my god, Melissa, what the hell are you doing? Melissa flashes shone red in the darkness, illuminating Melissa's shaking shoulder and cheek as she fired. I could tell how tightly she was clenching her jaw, as though determined to fight off the unbearable stress she was under. The sheer cruelty of her reality. She drew her eyes wide behind her glasses, the vibration from the gun shaking her whole body, and opened her mouth in a silent gasp as if she spotted an enemy. Oh shit! Her lips quivered, and she started stammering. In that moment, Melissa's face seemed to morph into that of several girls. Louise, Lorraine, Ashley, Charlene. Oh my god. No, Melissa. You're not built for this. Nobody could answer the painful question she was asking. The bullets she fired disappeared into the void, just like her anger, which did not seem directly at any particular person. When the magazine was empty, silence returned, and after a few moments, she received an answer to her outburst. Doesn't matter how good a person you were before. Once you pick up a gun and engage in combat, you open yourself to the consequences of that choice. Fire a shot, and you'll get a shot fired at you. That was the answer Melissa was met with. The bullet fired in counter-attack by the enemy shattered Melissa's glasses and pierced her skull. Her head burst open with a loud splash. Jeez. When Sally's shriek reached my ears, Melissa had already fallen to the ground. on her back, a large portion of her head missing. There was no need to go over and confirm it. She was dead. In that moment, a strange thought crossed my mind. Maybe she was one of the lucky ones. In a single instant, she was able to leave this hellish world. She didn't suffer any protracted injuries, nor did she end up dying of starvation or dehydration. If you're going to die anyway, it was probably better to go quickly and painlessly. I was almost jealous of Melissa for managing that. Another of the enemy's warning shots grazed my cheek. They were telling me that they knew exactly where I was and that I would be next. What was I to do? Their shots passed me and disappeared again into the dark. Natalie looked up at me, confused, unsure if I was talking to her. I let go of the rifle I had been holding and covered Natalie with both arms, shielding her as we crawled along the ground. We had to get out of there as soon as possible. It didn't matter where we went. Anywhere but there was fine. Anywhere different. I didn't know where we were headed or what we would find there. But I had to believe that someday everything would be fine, as long as we could get away from that place. My face got covered with mud as I crawled along, trying to shield Natalie. I risked a glance behind me. Sally wasn't oh crap. Sally wasn't following us, but there was no time to worry about where she might have gone. Alright, I think this is a good place to stop. That was, holy shit. That was brutal, to say the least. Man. You know, throughout this whole playthrough, ever since that all started, I just couldn't help but wonder, like, would it have been better for the girls to just stay in that cave? To stay in that base? That bunker? Like, where the town was? Like, the town they ran away from? Because, like, yeah, there wasn't a chance that they would survive, but they might have starved. Oh, there was a chance, a good chance they might have starved and dehydrated themselves if they stayed in that town, in that city, that underground city or whatever. But surely, surely in a way, it would have been better than the situation they're going through right now. I mean, they're a group of innocent girls smack dab in the middle of a brutal war. They're just dying one by one. Some of them were, dare I say, lucky by getting something as simple as a bullet to the head, something as quick and painless as a bullet to the head. But then you have others who weren't so fortunate, who meant much more, like Luis and Ashley, who were crushed, and so Ashley got, like, her head split open, and then Charlene was a little bit more humane, but she got killed by someone in a group that was supposed to keep her safe. And not to mention the fact that it's not the deaths of their friends that are impacting these girls. It's the sheer environment, it's the environment they're in. Like, all this, well, actually, look, hold on, let me, oh, wait. Let me just silence the footsteps for a few for a few minutes, for a few seconds. Well, at least while I'm talking and as I'm about to wrap up this video. But as I was saying, it's not just seeing their friends die that's getting to these girls. It's like the environment around them. Like seeing people die and then like just gunfire all around them, bullets whizzing past them, just running for their lives because everything is going to hell. And then seeing the men that are supposed to keep them safe, they're breaking one by one. If they're not dead, then they're not all there mentally. It's really taking a toll on these girls mentally and emotionally. In fact, these girls are, I mean, the war has taken a toll on them, on everybody, not just a specific person, on everybody. It's a brutal sight. It's a grim reminder that war is not merciful in any way. This visual novel is not glorifying war in any way. No, quite the opposite. It's showing every single detail, every possible thing that could happen during war. The visual novel is not pulling any punches. They're not sparing the good guys and killing off all the bad guys. No. I mean, yes, there is like protagonist. There is a protagonist and antagonist of this story, but you know, there are. It still shows the grim horrors of war, especially what it does to innocent people like these girls. And it's sad that these girls are meeting such a cruel demise. But then again, it's what happens during war. A lot of children that suffer through war in real life, they're just as unlucky, if not more unlucky. I do want the girls at Sword, our protagonist, to make it through this. Like, at the end of the day, I mean, even though I care about the girls at Sword, Haruto and the girls at Sword, even though if I had to make a choice, I would prefer that they survive over Patrick and Bruno's group and the nun girls. Like, if I really had to choose between Sword survival and Patrick and Bruno's and the nun girls survival, I would probably choose Sword. But that doesn't change the fact that I don't have any animosity towards this group. Okay, maybe I did have a little bit of animosity at first because I really didn't know who they were, but seeing what they're going through, like the absolute hell that is unfolding before them, like, you just can't help but sympathize for them. And this visual novel does a really good job at just making you feel for these characters. It's making you feel sorry for these characters. I mean, you really can't blame Charlene for having a panic attack and then running out in the open like that after what she just saw. You really can't blame Melissa for just losing all hope and then just seeing all that rage built up inside her and then picking up a gun and then just shooting randomly because she lost all hope. She saw all her friends die. You just can't help but feel sorry for them. And I've uttered this many times, like, they didn't really do anything to deserve this. They just wanted to live. That's all. They're not soldiers. They're not murderers. They're not criminals in any way. They're just girls that have their whole lives ahead of them. They're just trying to make it through this. And yet, look what's happening to them. But yeah, man, overall, it's... I kind of wish there's an ending where... Actually, no, I I had hoped that there would be an ending where all the girls, well, most of the girls, at least, would make it out of this. Like, everyone will make it out of this, and they will lead happy lives and grow up to be fine people. But that's clearly not going to happen. Like, I would love an ending where both sides, like both Patrick and Bruno's group and the girls at Sword, would make it out of this. They would make it out of this okay. And, you know, just build a new life and find happiness and all that. But that's not how it's going to go. That's unfortunate. Unfortunately, when it comes to war, there's no happy ending. There's rarely a happy ending. But yeah, let's I guess but let's see where this goes. And yeah, the only thing I can really do right now is just keep playing. Let's see where this goes. And again, just get the best ending possible. Although I don't know exactly what the best ending is about. And for those who do know, please do not spoil me. Please do not tell me what it is. But I hope to reach it. I still hope for the best conclusion possible. I mean, even if the girls, sad to say, even if the girls don't, neither of the girls make it out of this, I still hope for the best ending possible. I just hope some good comes out of me completing this visual novel. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys for watching. Have a good day. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Twitter. Support me on Patreon. Links in the description down below. And I'll see you guys next time.